Hi there, and welcome to Heard Online, a series of investigative episodes where we look at claims made on the World Wide Web about sleep to see if they are true or not. And today we have a an article that we're going to look at that came in from an anonymous supporter of the channel. I got an email a few days ago who said, "Hey, Daniel, maybe you want to look at this one." So I said, "Sure, this could be nice for Heard Online." And so we're going to look at an article that I'll share with you here. It is from Make It, which is from CNBC. And we're just going to jump in and take a look at it and see what we can learn here. So it is from Renee Onk. I'm probably not saying that correctly, but Renee, I believe, is the person who had a consultation. And Renee says, for me, insomnia presents as either a struggle to fall asleep or broken sleep that causes me to wake up every few hours. After nights like those, I don't feel energized or rested the following day. So after countless nights of tossing and turning, I decided it was time to seek expert advice. I spoke to Jade Wu, behavioral sleep medicine specialist and sleep advisor for Mattress Firm, who led me through an hour-long sleep consultation designed to help me get to the root of my sleepless night. The exam guided us through topics like average bedtime, light exposure, and what you should do during late night wake-ups. Here are a few gems from our sleep-centered conversation. And before we look at the three points that Renee picked out, I want to say that I know Jade a little bit. Like I was on a podcast with Jade a few years ago, and I know her a little bit through the Twitter sleep community. And I think she's recently written a book. She's been a guest on Martin Reed's podcast as well. I know that. So I know her a little bit, and I was checking these 3 points out, and I thought we could start with a third one, which I think there's some really nice things there, and then we can look at point 3 and 2 after that. So point 3 here is this one. The more we try to sleep, sometimes the more sleep runs away from us. Sounds familiar? Well, we teach this all the time, right? We talk so much about effort, and that the fundamental principle of our way is that sleep, peaceful sleep and peace of mind is effortless. So and when somebody says the more we try to sleep, the more sleep runs away from us, that to me sounds like that makes so much sense to me. Like that's kind of foundational truth. And Jade says, treat your sleep like a friend, says Wu, so that you will make time and prioritize your sleep. But also you don't want to be too rigid, because friendships need to also be flexible. We want to have enough flexibility in our relationships with sleep too. That's why if you do wake up during the night and have trouble getting back to sleep, we say don't stay and force it, because forcing your friend to hang out is just not going to work. It will just push them further away. This part here to me makes so much sense. If we think about relationships, I often go into like dating, like when, if we're on a date and we are like, we appear as like desperate, like this has to work, like you have to like me, please like me. The other person is probably going to be a little hesitant about that. They're like, okay, why are you pushing it? Something must be off here, like, something like that. And playing hard to get, on the other hand, it's kind of classic like dating playbook thing, right? But that sort of makes sense when we're like, this could this could work, maybe not, but if it doesn't, that's okay. That makes, that's kind of like a classic like dating playbook thing, right? And it sort of applies to sleep too, that when we're like, when we treat sleep as, something that we all want to sleep well, right? No question about it. We all want to do that. But when we're not trying to force it or push it, it happens easier. And I very much like this analogy with friendship, that if we try to force somebody to be friends with us, that creates some friction and tension by itself. And when we just kind of see what happens, then friendships, they happen by themselves, right? So it's a nice analogy. Now, the tricky thing to me is that, like, looking at sleep from the insomnia perspective, which this article is about, saying that you will treat your sleep like a friend so that you will make time and prioritize your sleep. That I think is tricky, because if anything, it's the it's the high priority we put to sleep that creates struggle for us. Like it creates pressure to sleep, right? So I think that part is a little tricky. But let's keep this analogy of friendship, and we can see how it plays out in the other two tips here. We can actually go back from. Oh, that was not okay. That was kind of an extra. That was not one of the 3 points. I think that was just where it ended. So we started where it ended, and now we can look at these 3 points. So point number 1 is this one. Now it's called 3. Okay, this is going to be confusing, but anyway. No, it says 3 things. Sorry. 3 things I learned from a sleep consultation for insomnia. And yes, point number 1 is this. Building up your sleep drive makes it easier to fall asleep at night. As someone on a hybrid work schedule, my wake time often shifts from 6:45 a.m. in the office to 8 a.m. when I'm working from home. And we're commonly told how important it is to stick to the same bedtime and wake up time. But the concept of a sleep drive dives deeper into why that's so significant. We have a sleep drive, which is like our hunger for sleep. You build up your hunger for sleep just by being awake, says Wu. So if you're awake for long enough, you're saving up sleep drive points throughout the day, almost like a piggyback. And hopefully by bedtime, you saved up enough. Now, this is a common idea in CBT-I. And if you look back on my earliest videos, I presented this very similar idea or the same idea. And with time, I realized this was quite tricky. And if we go back to the friendship analogy, and if we say that, okay, friendships happen by themselves when we're not trying to force them to happen, if we use that as kind of our foundational, point for this discussion, then I think trying to build up sleep drive so that it will make us sleep is again sort of like trying to force friendship. And I want to quote something that Coach Veronica said the other day in one of our Q&As, and I thought it made so much sense. She said, somebody asked about sleep drive, and she said, if us who've had insomnia, if we could bottle up our sleep drive and sell it, we would all be millionaires. Her point being that insomnia really isn't about sleep drive. We have plenty of sleep drive when we have trouble sleeping. It's not about that. It's more of that trying to force friendship again. So, that point could be a little tricky. Now, let's look at the second one. You need blue light exposure during the day to sleep well at night. In recent years, the effects that blue light exposure from electric devices can have on your eyesight and your sleep have been widely discussed, and glasses with lenses designed to block blue light have become extremely popular. Wearing such glasses during the evening is recommended by Wu because exposure to blue light too close to bedtime can negatively impact your sleep. This is especially true if you don't get enough sunlight during the day, but wearing blue light glasses throughout the day isn't necessary for most people and could actually affect sleep, says Wu. This to me again goes back to the friendship analogy. Like if we are, if we think about most people who sleep fine, they aren't forcing it. They're not actually using blue blocking glasses. They are using like a laptop to watch Netflix, like right up to when they go to bed without without having any problem from blue light. And the literature on blue light, I think, is not like, there's no like big studies showing like a clear correlation between like blue light and trouble sleeping at all. So I think it's a little tricky here. I think when we're trying to use blue light blockers to force a friendship again, force sleep to happen, that can be a little tricky. And I think another nice teaching point here is to think about what exactly are we trying to block when we use earplugs or blue blocking lenses. Well, insomnia is really an emotional struggle. The wakefulness is just a surface manifestation of an anxiety we have deeper within. And that anxiety deeper within, the fear inside us, that's truly what we want to get away from because it's so uncomfortable. So what we want to block is not blue light. When we put on blue light blockers, what we are attempting to block is actually anxiety. And we know that signals like anxiety, like these communications from our brain, like thoughts and signals, they get amplified the more we try to block them. So as odd as it may sound, when we try to block out blue light with glasses, it can often lead to more anxiety because it's sort of what we're truly trying to block is our emotions, and they get stronger and stronger the more we try to block them. So that can be a little tricky. Let's look at number 3. Tossing and turning makes insomnia worse. get out of bed instead. While it may be frustrating to get less hours of sleep than you'd prefer, forcing yourself to rest will only make it worse. It says the more we try to sleep, sometimes the more sleep runs away from us. Instead of putting that pressure on yourself, if you truly feel wide awake and know you're not getting back to sleep anytime soon, why not get up and do something you enjoy? Consider it your extra me time. You won't always get 8 hours of sleep each night, and that's okay. Perhaps you can use the time you're unable to sleep to read a few pages of a book you've been wanting to read. And now this part makes a lot of sense to me. But the whole idea that Dr. Wu presents here, that Jade Wu presents here, I think is very similar to what we call befriending wakefulness, which is that if we're not sleeping and we're trying to force sleep to happen or force friendship, that is less likely to happen. But if we do something that is sort of the opposite, it's sort of like playing, what's that again? Playing hard to get again. It's sort of like, okay, fine, I'm not going to sleep right now. I'm going to do something else. That can really lead sleep to happen by itself because it is a passive process. And now, the one thing I like to add here for context is just like, to me, it's not important to get out of bed. It doesn't matter where we are, wherever, if we're in bed or outside of bed, wherever we are, when we do something that makes it a little easier, teach the brain that it's acceptable to be awake, whether we're just resting with our eyes closed or reading a book or listening to a podcast or watching Netflix, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter where we are. As we're teaching the brain that this is okay, this is acceptable, there's no threat, we're not in danger, we're safe, that really helps. So I thought, some really, really nice points here in this article, some little trickier ones, but let me know what you thought, and be happy to discuss it further. And with that said, hope you'll have a nice rest of your Tuesday, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow or some other day. Bye for now.